This symbol of the spider has been on my mind recently, among other things, and I think it's gonna kind of give me some inspiration to put a message together after a few weeks of having minimal inspiration for YouTube.
Like my style? Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos.
Again, I'm kind of running through the motions and finding myself stuck in a very cyclical pattern of, it's not discontentment, but somewhat of a disappointing feeling of certain aspects of life. And I'll go through and I'll feel like I have kind of come to terms with them, and I've found some complacency with certain things, but then time will pass and I feel like, no, I haven't. And I don't think it's necessarily a childish naivete or, necessarily an unwillingness to accept reality, but it's kind of just, a dissatisfaction with how certain aspects of life are. And, I would probably chalk those up to, how human society is run. Because I think on an individual level, people are pretty cool in most cases. And so is society. We live in a world where we have access to so many things, so many resources that we wouldn't have had 100 years ago, and even more so than 100 years before that. So from that standpoint, we're living in a pretty cool time. But on the same token, we're also trapped in certain ways by this economic system that they've kind of put onto us, and not to mention a certain social hierarchy that we feel compelled to climb. And if you choose not to, you often feel kind of isolated or without, substantial backing for your own undertakings and pursuits, which is tricky. And if you're following me, I think you've probably felt that yourself. It can be quite, lonesome or even, isolating to pursue what you really love if it's not on the social web. And that kind of brings me to this metaphor about spiders, which has been really dominating my thinking recently. It's just this idea of being a part of a thread, being connected. Of course, we're connected to each other, as well as some maybe more ethereal essence to life. But, where does the line begin where that connection can hold us back? Maybe you feel compelled at times to create your own web, and not that you're trying to trap anybody in it, but rather you're trying to perhaps catch the right attention. So there is a larger, structure that is so easy to get, pulled into, and it's strong, it's compelling, it's confirmation, it's this idea of, acceptance and going with the status quo. And, there's no harm in following the majority in most cases, because we've seen that humanity does try to improve and progress towards goodness in some regard. But, because we are, at the end of the day, just fleeting, beings in a sense, because we can disappear at any moment, we do have this, inner urge, I would say, intrinsic to us to want to create and want to, develop. And for me, I feel it especially strong. So you're fighting this, dual urge to resist the pull of the larger web, but also to establish your own that feels pure and unique and satisfying for yourself. And maybe you have good intentions and you sow it with kindness and genuinity and qualities that represent you. There's hopefully other people out there that also believe in that, and maybe you will work together to create something that's more grand and even idealistic. Of course, starting practical never hurt anybody, and sometimes you have to if you want to build anything. So, where am I going with all this? I hope you're following me so far. I guess it's just to say that, life is complex, and so are we. There is a lot of not just duality, but kind of interconnectedness that's woven between these different aspects. And comparing it to a spider's web feels natural in some sense, because it's hard to tell where those lines are, where one thing started and another thing ended. Spider silk, for example, is such a strong, material that it also kind of feels, comparable to this thing that connects all of us and that connects us to what we love, which is different for each person. For me, I like art and music and life, plants, etc., among other things. Running. I like, what else? Designing, I like making words and forming messages, hopefully inspirational. So I'm going to keep working on my own creations, although at times it's discouraging and it feels difficult because I feel like I'm using up so much of my energy just to protect what I have and just to resist what's kind of pulling me in a different direction, that I feel at times sad, admittedly, because it is so wild out there. And you're not as protected when you choose your own path, admittedly. You are more susceptible to other forces that might prey on you. In some ways, you could be a predator yourself, but when compared to, the grandiose of, the human hive mind, it's hard to fight, of course. So, if you take anything from this, then a couple things is don't forget how strong connection is between yourself and what you are passionate about, between life and the different beings that experience it, between the past and the future. And secondly, try to remember that it takes time to build, your dream and your web and your structure. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will your web. So you must have patience. You must simultaneously resist the pull and the allure of the mass, unless that's what you seek, or if that aligns with your vision, and also to pursue and to innovate in the direction that you see fit. And if you can do it, then I think you will find satisfaction. And again, hopefully you will find others along the way that equally believe. So if you watched this far, appreciate you, and explore that symbol a little bit. It's something interesting I've found, and there's others like it just around, whether it's an animal, whether it's, kind of a written symbol, etc. There's a lot of unique things out there, and perhaps with some deeper meanings. So with that being said, I appreciate you if you watched this, and hope you have a great rest of your day.